If you're on the waitlist for Zite, you are continuing to see that number go up and up and up. I'm Diana, WE Actualize, and I'm going to jump into how does Zite compare to other similar products like Lovable and Bolt? Where does it, really run farther ahead? And where is it still in its growth phases? If you're new to Zite, you're new to fill out, or you're new to AI and vibe coding, here's a little rundown of where Zite goes ahead. So Zite is a really incredible platform where AI meets no code. It is an incredibly robust AI-first platform that makes AI accessible for the non-technical users. Here's what I mean. If you are familiar with Google Sheets, if you are familiar with Excel, and you are familiar with Airtable or anything in that arena, you can build platforms, you can build websites, you can build things with AI. And Zite is really that bridge that's helping it come together. So with Zite, you can really start from nothing and be able to just have an idea and create from there. So Zite gives you the capacity to not only come with your own Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet or Airtable base, but it will also help you build your own Google Sheets and build your own database. So you can have it create a new sheet or a new base for you that helps you track the data you're looking to create instead of having to create the data structure first and then try to build a front end on top of it. Another component that's really helpful about these types of platforms is that it is already doing a lot of the work for you. And so you have that capacity to have it create your data for you or use data that's already existing. Once you submit that first prompt and you have it start to build, here's where Zite really goes above and beyond. So we're going to look later at platforms like Lovable and Bolt. And the trajectory of no code to code I see amongst those three products is Zite is the least code forward while still allowing you to make code differentials and make your own custom code iterations. Bolt is the most code forward and the least no code user friendly. And then Lovable kind of sits in the middle where it kind of balances the two. It's more code forward than Zite is, but it is less code forward than Bolt is. So when you're creating your Bolt, site, platform, etc., whatever you're building here in Zite, what I love about it is that it's using the same concepts of AI. It's using natural language. So instead of saying, I'm building code, blah, 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 it is saying, hey, I'm creating your app layout. I am, validating this input. I am incorporating stylish animations. That's natural language. It's what we as users understand as a website, as a portal, as a, you name it. That's something non-technical folks will understand. Anyone who's seen a website could understand. And that is where Zite is going to just fly ahead of the other competitors. When we look at the very first output of Zite, it gives us a lot to go off of. We asked it to give us the capacity to implement sports bets, to view a dashboard of our total wins and losses, our win percentages. And the need for that is because that type of data is not being found in sports betting apps today. It makes sense why. But this user really wanted to be able to track, overall, what are my gains and losses? Am I making a profit off of these bets, or am I just losing outright? Capacity to track each individual bet, the type of bet, and in loss result, the profit loss of how much they put in versus how much turn they were getting out. And so it really, popped that out, right? From the gate where we've got these visuals here, our recent bets and our overall performance, and the capacity to add a bet as well. From there, we had to ask it to do certain things such as, hey, once we have a bet and we've entered one, we need the capacity to edit that bet. And so we needed to ask for it to do that as well. Now, if we had put that in the initial prompt, we may have gotten that out initially. But another thing that we ran into with this output was the actual calculations we needed to be able to accurately calculate the return on investment based on how these apps work. And so we had to do a little research and actually get the way to calculate those different percentages and things like that. Add in additional charts, show me a vertical that's over time and have it filter by month. Those are things we needed to ask the AI to create for us, because in this world of AI, vibe coding. If anyone wants to make a new name for that, that'd be great. You have to ask for those things as opposed to you really being able to edit those components. And so we also were struggling a little bit at first with the data syncage. Now, this is a huge component of Zite, and where it's going to run ahead of all the other platforms is that it's making this type of AI building accessible to people who are not out there using things like GitHub and writing their own code and using Supabase and, all these kind of complicated databases. This is really catering to the Airtable, Google Sheets, people who just want to get started. But we were running into a couple of issues there as Zite is still kind of getting off the ground. It's a little bit in beta, if you will, hence the wait list to get that data fully synced. But kind of outright, it gave us something we didn't have before in that morning when we were looking at it. And it gave us the capacity to really visualize the bets, to add new bets, to edit bets after they had been completed, and to add in a dashboard and charts as well. By publishing the Zite, we're able to access it anywhere we have access to internet browser using Wi-Fi or cellular data. So it allows us to access and utilize that app on the go. Let's take a shift now and take a look at how did Lovable and Bolt make this exact same app using the exact same prompt. So when we take a look at Lovable, from the get-go, very similar in its capacity. It has a little bit of the natural language where, upload images, really telling you what the platform can do. So it's saying deploy when you're ready, upload images, preview your changes, set custom knowledge, source at GitHub. It's not telling you what it's creating while it's creating it. It tells you that it's working, but it's just giving you kind of a, hey, if you're new to Lovable, here's how you use Lovable. It's, creating that same type of app, but it's not giving you that natural language that Zite gives you. We're spinning up, aesthetics and we're creating your form. No, right out of the gate, the best thing that Lovable is doing is whoever is doing their UI is phenomenal, because the UI of every app I've pulled from Lovable is just outranks any other platform I've used so far. Their UI is fantastic. It is very gorgeous. It is very streamlined. It's very in line with design principles and things like that. So it just aesthetically was way more gorgeous than any of the others. When we were running kind of the calculations themselves as well, and it doesn't show you the code initially. You can, toggle over to see the code itself. You can add data to Supabase and GitHub. That is way more geared towards a technical user who is using GitHub and more complicated databases like Supabase. So for us, if we were going to use this Lovable bet tracking app, we would have no way to store that data anywhere other than just inside Lovable itself. So we'd have no way to extract that data. We'd have no way to, manipulate that data or work within the data itself. Functionally, it still worked. It still created a very similar capacity of app where we had the capacity to edit, we had the capacity to view our bets, to add charts. We essentially went through the exact same process with Lovable. It was visually more appealing, and I do believe it got the calculations correctly without us even having to put in that calculation formula, which was a little different than the other two. So for Zite, we had to put our formula calculations inside Google Sheets or Airtable to get it to correctly calculate the betting types. Lovable did it on its own. Bolt, we had to put in those calculations as well. And so, the only real kind of downside to Lovable is, again, we can't keep that data anywhere except in Supabase or GitHub. Now, let's take a look at Bolt. And remember, I said that Bolt was the most code-heavy platform that I have tested thus far out of these three. There's plenty more out there I won't even touch because I know that they're even more code-heavy than Bolt. But let's take a look. All right, so again, we're using the exact same prompt, telling it to do the exact same thing, asking it to create the exact same use case. When it comes to Bolt, so it looks a little bit different where it's, outputting like, here's what we're creating, but it is literally showing you the code as it's generating, which I imagine for our code heavy friends, that's probably fun or exciting. I'm not sure. Let us know. But for me, if I had started my AI journey in Bolt, I would have immediately abandoned it. So I'd have been like, I don't know what that is, and I don't know what's happening. And so it's way more meant for the code users where they can see, okay, here's exactly, here's the JavaScript that's being created. Here's the React Native, here are the div tags. Here's all of the stuff that's being created. And so once it output the same, it's very similar, platform that we were looking to build. I then had to kind of guess how I could actually use the app itself. And so because I've done the tiniest bit of things in GitHub and the tiniest bit of things in actual code, my assumption was if I hit this button that says deploy, I might be able to do something with that. And so when I deployed, it gave me that capacity to have a URL that I could view and implement. And so the output itself, very simple, honestly. It gave me that code outright. And so if I was a coder, I probably could go in and make adjustments. But the kind of visuals and everything were pretty simple in comparison to Zite and Lovable. So just as a recap, if you're starting your AI journey and you're like, what is all this mess people are doing out here? It can be really fun. It can be very exciting. It is very fun to have an idea, pop it into something, and then immediate output of something. It is not immediately functional all the time. There are nuances you have to ask of it. Like, that's not what I asked for. Hey, I need to be able to edit it as a builder myself. Sometimes that's frustrating because I'm like, I know what I would need to do, but now I'm having to ask a thing to do it instead of me being able to make those changes. And, they have their range of code complication. And so, again, on that spectrum, from least code heavy, most non-technical user friendly, to most code heavy, more code oriented users. Zite, most user friendly, least code heavy, still using code, but you don't have to know or care about that. Lovable is a little bit in the middle. You can see a little bit of both. You know that it's using code, but it's also showing you more kind of the user side. It's graphics, best by far, and UI, best by far. And then Bolt, the most code heavy. If you are a Git user, a GitHub user, that may be your go-to, or even more complicated ones maybe your go-to as well. So if you've not tried some of these platforms, I'd love to hear what you're out there building. I'd love to hear what you build on a random Saturday morning. Like, we built our sports bet just out of a random idea. So tell us what you're building, tell us what you're trying, and stay tuned for more information about Zite, AI, no code, and low code development.